Okay, chapter 7 deals with appraisals. Now, first of all, that first line under appraisal. An appraisal is an opinion of value based on supportable evidence and approved methods. Now, let's say an appraiser came out to your home this morning at 8 o'clock. They're saying at this time, at 8 o'clock in the morning, this is what your property is worth. It doesn't hold true. I mean, he could pull away from your house 5 minutes later, it could blow up or burn down or something. Doesn't hold true unless nothing else changes on a property. Now, in order to do an appraisal for someone, you must be licensed as an appraiser. You must be certified as an appraiser. Now, we don't do appraisers, us as licensed agents. We don't do appraisals. We do a market analysis. Let's go to the next page, I believe. Yeah. A lot of this stuff you could go over here. About the middle of the next page. Real estate brokers competitive market analysis. Now, what we do as licensed agents to help a seller determine the value of the property, we prepare a competitive market analysis. We call it a CMA. Now, what we do, our CMA consists of, there's 4 things in it. You know, we go to the property, we take down our notes, our room measurements, get the square footage, any improvements that they did to it, and we do a market analysis, trying to find properties that are similar to theirs. Now, our CMA, CMA is broken down into 4 parts. I use the acronym ACEs. The A stands for active properties, meaning if someone's going to come out and take a look at your condo or your home, they're going to look for other condos in that building or other homes in that neighborhood, and that's basically your competition. The C stands for contract pendings. Now, a contract pending is a property that was on a market, it's sold, it did not close yet. But this gives us an idea how many days it takes for a property to close, how much activity, how many properties are selling, things like that, contract pending. The E stands for an expired listing. An expired listing is a property that was on a market and did not sell. Now, there's only 2 reasons why property doesn't sell: price and exposure. See, price could overcome anything. Price could overcome the location, the condition, if there's high interest rates, but if nobody knows about it, you're not going to be able to sell it. And the last one is called sold, what we call sold property. This generally carries the most weight. Why? This tells us what people are willing to pay for a property similar to yours. Now, when an appraiser comes out to appraise your property, they don't care about the actives, they don't care about the contract pendings or the expireds. The only thing they work with is sold properties. They look for anywhere from 3 to 5 comparables, as they call them, or comps, and they only work with sold. Now, what they're looking for is properties that sold in the same neighborhood and they try to find properties that sold in the last 6 months. Now, will they go out of that neighborhood? Yeah, if they can't find enough comparables. Will they go out of that condo building if not enough sales in that building? Yes, they will. They try not to. Will they go beyond 6 months? Well, sometimes if it's a slow market, yeah, sometimes they would have to do that. But that's the only thing that an appraiser uses. Again, they use as many as 3 to 5 comps or comparables. Now, the next paragraph, BPO, broker's price opinion. A broker's price opinion is we call this a drive-by appraisal. It's not very accurate. Sometimes, especially when there's a lot of foreclosures going on, lenders don't want to spend the $400 to do an actual appraiser, so they send someone over there to do a broker's price opinion. What that appraiser does, they don't even get out of the car. They pull up in front of the property, roll down the window, take a picture, and then try to find properties that are similar to it. Not very accurate at all because they have no idea what the condition of the property looks like inside, the whether it's updated or anything else. Not very accurate. So now, the next paragraph, the very last couple of lines, you can highlight, put an X by that. To have value in the real estate market, that is to have monetary worth based on desirability, a property must have the following 4 characteristics. Actually, you can highlight these 4 bullets over here. We use the acronym DUST to help you remember them by. The D stands for demand. Demand means that someone wants a property. But not only do they want the property, they have the financial ability to purchase the property. The U stands for utility, that there must be some usefulness of the property. The S stands for scarcity. As I mentioned before, land is scarce. And then the T stands for transferability. You must be able to transfer your interest in this property over to someone else. Now, market value. I'd like you to highlight, put X by that. Market value of real estate is the most probable price that the property will bring in a fair sale. We call that arm's length transaction, which means that both the buyer and the seller are informed. They know the value of the property. They're working in their own best interest. The buyer's not going to go to the seller, Mr. Seller, you're a nice guy. I'm going to pay you $50,000 more for the property. That's not going to happen. The buyer's informed. He wants to pay as low as possible, get the best deal he can for himself. And of course, the seller wants to get as much money as possible, the best deal for themselves. That's what we mean. Arm's length transaction from each other. Now, market value versus market price. Market value is an opinion what the value of the property is based on the analysis of all the data that's available. Now, that next line, you can highlight, put an X by it. Market price is what the property actually sells for. Now, let me go back to my board. Okay. Market value. Let's say you, the owner, you have a feeling, you believe that your property has a current market value of $450,000. Someone comes up to you and gives you an offer on your property. They give you an offer of $425,000, and you accept the $425,000. Now you think your property's worth $450,000. Let me tell you this: your property's worth exactly what someone's willing to pay you and what you're willing to accept. Now, that offer could be the same as market value, could be more than market value, could be less than market value. Now, market value versus cost. Highlight, put X by that. What it costs that seller to buy that home originally has nothing to do with the value today. Nothing to do with the value today. They bought their home 30 years ago. What they paid 30 years ago has nothing to do with the value today. You know, a lot of times a buyer wants to buy a property. How much do they pay for the property? What difference does it make? It doesn't matter what they pay for the property. It has nothing to do with the value today. Now, on the next few pages here, we have several basic principles of value. I am going to go over all of them. Some of them I'm going to have you put an X by because they just show up a little bit more often than others. So the first one is called the principle of anticipation. So this next paragraph and this next page you can highlight. Now, the principle of anticipation. Yeah, I don't know if I told you, but do put an X by this. People buy property in anticipation that the value of that property is going to go up. People buy property in anticipation, well, when they retire, they're going to sell the home and it's going to help pay for their retirement. That's the principle of anticipation. There's a friend of mine in real estate. She got her license the same year that I did. And she also got married the same year she got her real estate license. Let me tell you what she did. Whenever she had a child, she would buy a home, not an expensive home, a modest priced home. And what she would do, she would rent this house out. And for 18 years, she would rent it out. And 18 years of paying down the mortgage, and 18 years of appreciation on that property. When her child turned 18, she would sell that property, and generally there was enough money there to at least get their children started to pay for their college education for a few years. That's what she did. And that was the only way that she was able to send all 10 of her children to college. She had 10 children in 9 years. No twins. Well, they call them Irish twins. I don't know if you know what that is. Irish twin ones, they're born in the same year, one in January, one in October. But that's what she did. And that was smart of her. It's not easy. I know it's not easy. You know what? She was very smart to provide for her children. I didn't think she knew how to close the store, but she was very smart in providing for her children. Very smart of her. Good Irish Catholic, that's what she was. Now, you don't have to highlight this next one. It's called change. Now, the only thing that does not change in real estate is change. See, we are always in a constant state of flux and change. The market's not the same as it was 5 years ago. It's not the same as it was a year ago, 6 months ago. Even the last 2 months, it's changed quite a bit. Things are always constantly changing in the real estate market. Competition, you don't have to highlight this one. Well, under the principle of competition, this is the interaction of supply and demand. Profit breeds competition. Profit breeds competition. Excess profit brings ruinous competition, meaning this. A developer buys some farmland somewhere, starts building a bunch of homes, and these homes are selling right away, very quickly. Then other developers, they buy land, they all start building homes. Now we get too many homes, not enough buyers, price drops. You put X by the next one, principle of conformity. Under the principle of conformity, the maximum value is created when property is in harmony with its surroundings. Meaning that, let's say I own a 3-bedroom home, but I live in a neighborhood where everyone else has a 5-bedroom home. Well, my home has a lot less value compared to the other ones. My 3-bedroom home everything's taken away when I have a 5-bedroom home next to it, a 2-bedroom home on the other side. I have an apartment building in front, a condo complex in back. A home should be similar in size and square footage. Otherwise, it loses value. Now, let's say I had a lot on Lakeshore Drive. The best thing for me to build on that lot will be a condo building. Why? If you drive down Lakeshore Drive, what do you see? Condo building after condo building after condo building. If I have a lot, building a single family home is not the best thing. You need conformity. Now, contribution. You can put X by this one. Under the principle of contribution, the value of any part of the property is measured an effect on the value of the whole. Now, let me give you an example of that. Let's say all of us, we all live on the same block. All our homes are about the same size, square footage, and everything else. And you know what? It was time for us to update our kitchens. So we all put in new kitchens. But all of you spent $25,000, $30,000 putting in a brand new kitchen. Not me. I went out and I spent $150,000. I put in a fancy gourmet chef kitchen. Now, we all have the same size home. We now all have new kitchens. Now, if the average home is selling for $350,000, how much am I going to get for mine? Remember, I spent $150,000 for a new kitchen, whereas all of you spend $25,000 or $30,000. I'm going to get, if the average home is selling for $350,000, I'm going to get $350,000. I'm not getting $450,000, $500,000. Over improved. Highest and best use. Put X by that one. The most profitable single use for which a property may be put, or the use that's most likely to be in demand in the near future is a property highest and best use. Now, let's say, for example, I have 3 acres of land that's located in a industrial zoned area. If I was to build a single family home, that is not the highest and best use of that property. Building a factory, building a warehouse would be the highest and best use. Now, increasing and diminishing returns. You got to highlight put X by that. Given a certain amount of money and a certain amount of land, you can make improvements to your property that can increase the value up to a certain point, and then it starts diminishing. I'll give you an example. Okay. I own a 3-bedroom home. I'm the only one in the neighborhood with a 3-bedroom home. Everyone in the neighborhood has a 5-bedroom. My home is worth a lot less money than everybody else's, but what I have is a lot of money and a lot of land. So what I did is I added another bedroom. Now I have 4 bedrooms. Well, that did increase the value of my property, but it's not worth as much as everybody else because they still have a 5-bedroom home. But I still have a lot of money and a lot of land, and I added another bedroom. Now I have a 5-bedroom home. At least that makes my home worth as much as everybody else. But you know what? I still have money and extra land, and I decided to add another bedroom. So now I have 6 bedrooms. I don't know if there's a demand for 6 bedroom, but definitely going from 3 to 4 did increase the value, and even from 4 to 5, maybe going from 5 to 6 might increase it slightly. But you know what? I still have a lot of money, a lot of land, and I add another bedroom. Now I got a 7-bedroom home. And I have a lot of money, a lot of land. I keep adding bedrooms. Now I have 15 bedrooms. Well, as I said, going from 3 to 4 did increase the value, even 4 to 5, maybe slightly from 5 to 6. But going with 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 15 bedrooms, there's no demand for a 15-bedroom home. By making improvements to your property, you can increase the value up to a certain point, and then it starts diminishing, increasing and diminishing returns. Plottage, you can highlight, put an X by that. Now, plottage means if I own, let's say I own 20 vacant lots on the same block, I can make more money selling to one developer who will buy all 20 lots than selling 20 lots scattered throughout the city to 20 different developers. Why? Because the cost per home decreases the more homes you build on that property. Because the job site, having everything on one job site, it's easier for pulling your permits, meeting the inspectors, making sure your deliveries are there, the workers showing up. Because if I do be scattered around 20 different home sites, it's going to cost me a lot more money. Question here. What brings in the most value to a home? Kitchen and bathroom is what you heard. Kitchens do add a tremendous amount of value to the property. People do love new kitchens, new bathrooms. Those are the most expensive rooms in a house. Anyway, even tenants like new bathrooms, new kitchens. Usually, if you own an apartment building, having new kitchens, new bath, you could command a higher rent. People are willing to pay for that. People generally look at everything. They look at the square footage, the yard, and different people means different things, you know. But it seems like the kitchen or the family room seems to be the main focal point. Kitchens are very expensive to remodel, so they do look at and they do like to see something updated. Now, even if you have a kitchen that's 20 years old, that's a dated kitchen, you know, by today's standards, though. But I mean, people could spend easy 100,000, easy on 100,000 on a large kitchen. So, but I think that the kitchen does have a tremendous amount of attraction to it. And sometimes, you know what? I don't know why. It seems like men, the husbands, they want a lot of bathrooms in the house. I don't know why they just want to look at, oh, wow, 4 bathrooms. They really love it. I don't know why, you know. I had this couple, And the guy was real happy. 4 bathrooms. He really wanted this house because he didn't care about anything else. He liked 4 bathrooms. His wife says, no. You find a home, Sam. She says, oh, otherwise we're not buying it. Only 2 bathrooms. And well, I listened to her because guess what? She says, he doesn't clean bathrooms. We're not getting 4 bathrooms here. Okay, I get a comment. My wife and I spend hours in the bathroom. I need another. Yeah, I can see that. 5-year-old kitchens can be dated if done trendy. You are absolutely right about that, Rebecca. That is absolutely true. I don't sometimes, I mean, sometimes it looks great for that first year or two when people put up these contemporary style bathrooms, kitchens, the furniture. I mean, people spend a lot of money having this designer furniture, and it really looks great, but it does become dated very, very quickly. And most people do not have the imagination to see it being without it. I tell you one thing. I went to list someone's home, and I knew the people and stuff like that. That was the first time I was in that home, and this was one of the worst kitchens I ever saw. There was burn marks on the Formica countertop. Some of the Formica was missing. Tiles of floor was missing. The oven was so bad that they had to put a like a dish towel to jam it in the door to keep the door shut because it kept popping open. It was a horrible looking kitchen, old sink and everything else. And so I'm there with the couple, and the husband right away he says, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to put in all brand new kitchen, new sink, new appliances, everything else." And then the wife turned and said to him, "You're going to do what?" And then I thought she was just a messy housekeeper. She says, "Sam, I want to tell you this. We bought this house 12 years ago. This is the kitchen we bought. This is the kitchen. I do not, you look at my house, you see my house is clean. I don't keep a kitchen like that. This is the way we bought it with the drawers missing and the oven door well closed and the burn marks and the missing tile. We bought it that way. He promised me 12 years ago that he was going to put in a new kitchen. Now he's going to sell, and now he's going to put in a new kitchen for someone else. Oh man, I thought I saw fire coming out of her eyes. I told her, I told him, I says, look, we're going to list this property the way it looks right now. We're going to take off the kitchen off the price and let someone else design it. I told him, I says, do you know the difference between being married and happily married? You make a promise, you better make sure you keep that promise. I couldn't believe that she lived with that kitchen for 12 years. I would have burned down the house. Yeah, yeah. Guys, you make a promise, you better keep your promise to your spouse. That's the difference between being married and happily married. Now, regression and progression. I'd like you to highlight, put X's by both of those. Let me give you an example of that one. Oops. All right. Now, progression and regression. I am going to do, let me think for a second. I am going to do progression first. This is an example of progression I'm going to draw for you. This is a neighborhood. These are different homes out here, these lots. And here I have a home. This is going to be, let me see, do I want to do, yeah, I'm going to do progression. Here I have a home for 775,000. I have another home here for 770, another one for 785, another one for 765, another one for 770, 775, 780, Another one for 770, 765. And here I have a home that's 250,000. Now this $250,000 home surrounded by these homes at upper 70s, upper 700s, that home's going to be worth more than 250. I'm not saying this home is going to be worth, over 700. But if you own a $250,000 home and everyone else has homes at 270, 260 or something, your home is worth more than 250. That's the principle of progression. Now, regression, on the other hand, is just the opposite. Here we have, sorry about that. Turn off my phone. So, regression is this. Here we have a neighborhood. Here I have a neighborhood here I have a home that's worth 355, another one for 365, another one for 350, another one for 360. I got one for 370, another one for 350, 355, 360. Got another one here for 365. And here I have a $950,000 property. This $950,000 property surrounded by these more modest price homes, it's never going to get anywhere near 950. One of the worst listings you can ever take in your real estate career is the most expensive house in that neighborhood or the most expensive house on that block. That's regression. Now, next is the principle of substitution. Happy wife, happy life. Yes, you are right, Alberto. Apparently, you're talking from experience. So, principle of substitution. Now, put X by that one. Under the principle of substitution, the maximum value of a property tends to be set by how much it will cost to purchase a equally desirable, valuable substitute property. That's the principle of substitution. Let me give you an example of that one. In a second. Progression and regression. The process is how equity is determined. Not so much equity, I would say value. Value. Doesn't matter how much equity you have in a $950,000 home. If all the homes are selling for about $350, you're never going to. It doesn't matter what your equity is. You're not going to get $950 for that property. It's just a fact it will not happen. So, principle of substitution. Let me give you an example of that. Let's say you were qualified by a lender today as how much money you could afford to buy a home. So you've been qualified today by a lender. What are you going to be doing this weekend? You're going to drive around in a neighborhood of where you want to buy a home. So you're driving around on a Sunday afternoon in a neighborhood, and there's an open house. And you stop at that open house. Now, this property happens to have 4 bedrooms. It has 3.5 baths. It has a full finished basement. And it's listed at $495,000. You love this property. You love the neighborhood. You like everything about it. But based on what you can qualify, you're going to use every last dime you have to purchase that home. You're not going to have anything left over. I mean, if something breaks down, what are you going to do? I mean, you're not even going to be able to afford to buy food. You'll be eating cornflakes for dinner for the next year and a half. Wow. Do you want to make that sacrifice? You want to think about it. So I really think about if I want to do that. So you get in the car and you drive away. Just got to think about this a little bit. You get 2 blocks away, there's another open house. So you stop in that other open house. The second open house also happens to be a 4-bedroom home. This has 2.5 baths. It has a full basement, but it's not finished. But they're not asking $495. This one they're asking $465,000. Wow, this is a lot more in your price range. Yes, you still have 4 bedrooms. You have a master bath. You know what? You can finish off the basement down the road in a couple years or something like that. Yes, this second home is a little bit older and maybe a little bit smaller, but it's still in the same neighborhood. So you decide to buy the second home. That is the principle of substitution. We all use the principle of substitution. Any of you out there right now that own a home, why do you live in that home that you live in? Because you use the principle of substitution. If you don't own a home, if you ever looked at a home, you use the principle of substitution. Now, if you live in an apartment right now, why do you live in that apartment? Well, for where you want to be and a space you need and what you can afford. That's why you're in that apartment. You use the principle of substitution when you rented that apartment. We all do that. Now, let's get back to the text. A supply and demand, that's simple basic economic principle. Again, we talked about this before. If there's a greater supply of homes and there's no demand, prices go down. Demand goes down, prices go down. Very few homes out there, a lot of demand for property. Demand goes up, prices go up. Price always follows demand. Now, 3 approaches to value. The 3 approaches that an appraiser uses, one is called the sales comparison approach, the other is called the cost approach, and the other is called the income approach. An appraiser might use one of these, they might use 2 out of 3, they might use all 3 of them. They kind of serve as checks against each other. So highlight this paragraph, sales comparison approach. Highlight, put an X by it. Now the sales comparison approach, something else I want you to highlight and put X by it, and I'm going to talk about it. Let's go to the next page. I need you to, where it says CBS and CPA, highlight, put an X by those as well. So let me explain this to you. Okay, the sales comparison approach or also called market data approach is used on any existing residential property. And vacant land. I want you to remember that. Usually that comes up. Sales comparison approach, market data, is used on any existing residential property and also used for comparing vacant land as well. Now, what this appraiser does, they try to find as many as 3 to 5 comparables or comps. Now, they try to find property exactly like the subject property. Like if I'm an appraiser trying to find out the value of your property, I want to find property exactly like yours. But I can't find property exactly like yours. I can find properties that's similar to yours, but I had to make adjustments for it. So let me give you a couple examples that I've seen on a state exam that you should probably see. So let's take comp number 1, comparable number 1. This is a property that's sold for $495,000. This property is equal to yours in every single way, except that this property has a swimming pool. And you do not have that. The value of the swimming pool is $23,000. Oh, before I get into that, I should have talked about this. I want to talk about CBS and CPA. CBS, if the comparable is better. You subtract. If the comparable is poor, you add. See, adjustments are always made on the comps, not on the subject property. Why? I'm trying to find out the value of your property. Your property is called the subject property. So, on this case right here, comp number 1 has a swimming pool. You do not have a swimming pool. I need to take away the swimming pool. If I took away the swimming pool, the properties are exactly the same. So if I minus 23,000, that's what I have to do. I subtracted the swimming pool, the current value, the adjusted, I should say, the adjusted price comes out to $472,000. That's on comp number 1. Now, comp number 2. This is a property that's sold for $440,000. Now, this property is identical to yours in every single way, except comp number 2 has 1 less bedroom. And they assign the bedroom as a value. They will give you the value of these as of $30,000. See, the subject property has a 4-bedroom home. This house has a 3-bedroom home. I need to convert a 3-bedroom home into a 4-bedroom home. So what I need to do, if I add 30,000, I just converted a 3-bedroom home into a 4-bedroom home. So the adjusted price on this one comes out to $470,000. So I do like 3, 4, 5 of them, or the appraiser does 3, 4, 5 of them. Then they average the adjusted price on these, and that's how they come up with the value of that property. That's called the sales comparison market data approach. Now, let's go on to the cost approach. Now, the cost approach is used on any unusual type property. It tends to set the upper limit. A good example, maybe any type of government building, a church, a stadium, they use the cost approach. Now, there's these 5 steps, and you got to highlight these 5 steps, but let me give you an example here. I'm going to give you one in a moment. I'm going to put them in a different order, though. I'm going to set this up in a different order, the 5 steps. And go to different canvas. So, okay, the 5 steps are, first of all, I had to figure out what does it cost new to build this property? What does it cost new? Now, the property's not brand new. It's been sitting there for who knows, 30, 40, 50 years. So what I had to do is figure out the depreciation. I'm using the 5 steps, just put them in a different order because it's going to flow better. So I've had to figure out the depreciation on here. Minus my depreciation will equal certain dollar value. Then I figure out the value of the land as if it was empty, add the value of the land, and that's going to give me the total value of the property. So let me give you an example of a problem. Let's say I have a 2-story home. Two-story home. Each floor measures 30 feet by 70 feet. Now, cost to build new. Cost to build new. is $200 per square foot. I have land value of $325,000, and I have depreciation of 20%. So I figure out the cost of this property. So here's what I have to do. First of all, each floor is 30 feet by 70 feet, which equals 2,100 square feet, times 2 stories. If it's a 3-story, multiplied by 3, that gives me 4,200 square feet. Now, the cost of building this new cost, cost of building this new is $200. I need to multiply this by $200. That gives me $840,000 to build this new. Now I have a 20% depreciation. I want you to remember, land does not depreciate, only improvements do. So 840,000 times 20% equals 168,000. I had to deduct the depreciation, the 168,000, and that's going to give me a dollar amount of $672,000. Then I add the value of the land of $325. And the total value of the property, $997,000. Those are the steps. And you know what steps I just did? This right here, all of this. First thing I did was I figured out, what does it cost new? It's not brand new. I have a certain amount of depreciation. I minus my depreciation, this step here, which now equals this amount here. I add the value of the land, and this is the total value of the property. All I did was follow these steps I just did for you. That's called the cost approach used on any unusual type property. Now, I'll get back to my textbook. Just go on, I think, to the next page, probably. Yeah, now, here, it says there are 2 ways to look at construction costs of a building for appraisal purpose: reproduction and replacement costs. Highlight, put an X by number 1 and 2. Reproduction means you build an exact duplicate using the same material that was used when this property was originally built. Replacement means you use modern building material and you just have a building with the same usefulness. Which one is more expensive? Reproduction is more expensive. Now, you take a church built 100 years ago. That church is built 100 years ago. If that church was to burn down, to do a reproduction, you got to use the same material, the same craftsmanship that it took originally to build. Whereas today, a replacement use modern building materials like cinder block, fake stained glass. It's just a building using the same usefulness. Reproduction is a lot more expensive. Now, determining reproduction or replacement costs new. There are, I hope there's only 3 steps. 1, 2, 3. They got the 4th one. Forget about the 4th one. Well, let me talk about the first 3. The index method, forget about it. You're never going to see it. Now, the first one is called the square foot method. The square foot method is this. This problem here is the square foot method, where the land is calculated separately from the improvement. Now, the next one is called the quantity survey method. Now, I'm sorry, unit in place method is what I'm looking for. The second one is the unit in place method. Now, the unit in place method is if you're going to build a big hotel or a hospital or something like that. Now, let's say I want to build a apartment complex. I want to build 200 apartment units. So first of all, I had to each apartment's going to have a living room, dining room, kitchen, 2 bedrooms, 2 bath. Okay, what does the kitchen cost? Multiply that by 200. What does the living room cost? Multiply that by 200. What does the bedroom cost? Multiply it by 400 because they have 2 bedrooms in each unit. So I add up all the different components, add a profit for the builder, and that tells me approximately what it's going to cost to build this property. Now, I look at it and I says, my God, this is a lot less money than I thought. You know what? I'm not going to build 200. I'm going to build 250 units. So now I had to add 50 more living room, dining rooms, kitchens, etc. So that's called the unit in place method. Now the quantity survey method, this one, the only one I can figure this one out will be an architect. Okay, I let's say that I have the blueprints to build a home. The only one that can help me out with this will be my architect. I bring the blueprints to my architect and said, "This is my house I'm going to be building. I'm going to go over to Home Depot next week. I need to buy the materials. Tell me what I need to buy." So he's going to figure out everything. He's going to figure out, the ton of bricks I need, how many 2x4s, 2x12s, how many sheet of rock, how many windows, doors, how many feet of piping, how many feet of wiring, how many bundles of roofing shingles, how many gallons of paint, nails, screws, everything. Sam, here's your list. Go shopping. So they breaks it down by each different component that goes into building that home. Now let's go on to depreciation. And you can put an X by that. Depreciation in real estate is a loss of value due to any cause compared with today's cost of replacement. That next paragraph, the first 4 words only, highlight, put an X by. Land does not depreciate. Land does not depreciate. As far as all of you are concerned, land never depreciates, ever. Improvements do, but land does not. On this next page, the first paragraph, depreciation, highlight, put an X by that. Depreciation is considered to be curable or incurable. Curable means that you can fix it and it's economically feasible to fix. Incurable means that it costs too much money, it's not worthwhile to fix. Now, let me give you an example of curable and incurable depreciation. You and I are neighbors. And when it rains, we each get a couple inches of rainwater in our basement. And you got tired of it. You call one of these basement waterproofing companies to come out and take a look at your home. The guy comes out, he looks at your home and he says, well, the reason why you're getting water in your basement, you got a couple of cracks on the foundation. All they have to do is dig on the outside. They have to go down several feet, patch it up with hydraulic cement, throw tar over it, and that will cure your problem. It's going to cost you, I don't know, $7,000, $8,000. You tell the guy to go ahead and do the work. So the guy did the work. Once he got done, it rained real heavy for 4 days. Yeah, you got no water in the basement. The guy knew exactly what he was doing, and he resolved that issue. Now, you see me a couple days later, you go, Sam, hey, are you still getting water in your basement? Well, yeah, actually, right now I'm getting twice as much water. You're not getting the water. I'm getting twice as much water. So you said, why don't I call up your guy? I call up your guy. He comes out and he looks at my property. And the reason why I'm getting water in my basement is that my foundation is starting to crumble all the way around the entire property. The only way to fix that problem, he would have to spend, it would cost me $50,000 or $60,000. Incurable. Spending $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 to have a dry basement, that's worthwhile. $50,000, $60,000, no, incurable. That's the difference between curable and incurable. Now, this paragraph where it says physical deterioration, highlight, put an X by that one. It's also called physical depreciation. The next paragraph, functional obsolescence, also called functional depreciation, highlight, put an X by that one. Then skip a couple paragraphs where it says external obsolescence or external depreciation. You can put an X by that one as well. So let me explain those to you. Oops, hold on a second. Oh, hold on. I got into something I didn't want to do. Okay. Let's go to my board. I lost my board. Okay, let me explain these to you. The first one is called physical deterioration, also called physical depreciation. So, physical deterioration, also called physical depreciation. It's a loss of value to the property caused by wear, tear, and neglect of the property. For example, the roof on your property is leaking. You need to replace your roof. Well, you don't. You just buy a bunch of buckets to catch the water. You empty out the buckets. It's going to eventually stop raining. Problem is you're causing more deterioration on the structure itself. That's physical deterioration, physical depreciation caused by wear, tear, and neglect of the property. The next one is called functional obsolescence. Or also called functional depreciation. So loss of value to the property. Caused by being out of style or being out of date. Out of style, out of date. For example, you when you have a front driveway with a garage in the front connected to the house, but there's no access from the garage into the house. So if you park your car in the garage, you have to get out of the garage and walk into the front door. And when you walk in the front door to get into your kitchen, you have to walk through the living room, the dining room, the family room before you get into the kitchen. That's a bad floor plan right there, especially if you did big grocery shopping, or especially if you brought your kids home from playing soccer on a rainy day. What do the kids do? First thing they do is run to the kitchen for food. Another example of functional obsolescence is, I've seen this on a state exam. I have a 10-room, 4-bedroom home. It only has one bath. 10 rooms, 4 bedrooms, 1 bath. Functional obsolescence. You have a 4-bedroom home, you have a large family. 1 bathroom is not going to work out. The next one is called external obsolescence. external obsolescence, also called external depreciation. So loss of value to the property beyond the owner's control. You did everything right on your property. When the roof was leaking, you replaced the roof. When you added bedrooms, you added bathrooms. You did everything right on your property, but the value of your home has gone down. Why? Because let's say where you live right now, there's a vacant lot next door to your home. It's been there forever. And on this vacant lot, nothing grows, nothing, not even weeds grow there. Then you found out that why nothing grows there, that was used as a toxic waste dump site right next door to your home. You just lost value on your home. And you know that big old house on the other side of your home has been empty for years, this huge house. Well, the city of Chicago bought that home. They're going to turn that home into a halfway house for drug addicts who are also sex offenders. Now what happened to the value of your property? And then you know that vacant lot behind your home that butts up against your backyard, that huge lot? Well, the state of Illinois bought that lot. They're going to build a maximum security prison to house mass murderers right out your backyard. What happened to the value of your home? Best thing to do is make sure you have your insurance paid and accidentally burns down. That's what it is. Now, see these three over here: physical deterioration, functional obsolescence, or external obsolescence. Some of you are going to see all three of these on a state exam. Most of you are going to see 2 out of 3, but I guarantee all of you will see at least one. The most common is the middle one, functional obsolescence. Out of style, out of date. Now we're going to talk about the income approach. Now, the income approach is used on any income producing property. Now, I'm talking about a shopping center, an office building, a large apartment building, but I'm also talking about a one-bedroom condo that you might be renting out. So I'm going to talk about some things right now. I'm just going to give you the information that you need to know to prepare for the state exam. If you're going to be working with investors, you need to dig into this a little bit more, understand it, take a couple classes to understand this. Now, there are 5 steps in determining the value of a property, how an investor buys property. You can highlight 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, investors buy property based on the bottom line. Homeowners buy properties based on emotions. They love the woodwork, they love the bay window, they love the fireplace, whatever it might be. Well, investor says, okay, I'm going to buy a property. Which one of these buildings here is going to give me a better return on my investment? So these 5 steps, let me go over these with you. Okay. The first step is they figure out what does it cost. It's called the gross scheduled income. Gross. These are the 5 steps I put on there. Gross scheduled income. Meaning if my building was rented 100% of the time, what's my total income? But no building's rented 100% of the time, you will have a vacancy. So you figure out what the vacancy is, you minus the vacancy, and that's going to give me my effective gross income. Now you have expenses. Your expenses will include things like your property taxes, your insurance, your repairs, maintenance, janitorial fees, management fees, scavenger, utilities, whatever your expenses are. You take your expenses minus your expenses from the effective gross income, and that's going to equal what we call the net. It's called the net, or it's also called NOI, net operating income. Your income minus your vacancy minus your expenses will equal your net or your net operating income. Then you take your capitalization rate, and you're going to divide, it's a percent. You can divide that into the net operating income, and that will equal the value of the property. This is how investors determine the value of a property. So basically, you got about 3 problems in the back of this chapter. There's a couple problems, couple formulas you need to know. To figure out the value of the property, you take the net operating income divided by the cap rate, and that's going to equal the value. Now, sometimes they're going to ask you, how do you figure out the cap rate? You take about 5, 6 buildings in the area, and it doesn't matter. It could be a 20 unit, 40 unit, 80 unit, 200 unit, it doesn't matter. You take 5 or 6 buildings, each building one at a time. You take the net operating income divided by the sold price, and that will give you the cap rate. You do 5 or 6 of these and get the average cap rate. So let me put some numbers here, and I think these numbers will help you understand this a little bit. So let me erase this part off. Okay. So let's say that the gross scheduled income, if this building was fully rented, comes out to $250,000 a year. Now, no building's rented 100% of the time. You have a vacancy, so you figure out what your vacancy is. Say it's 15,000. We minus our vacancy, and that's going to give us our effective gross income, which comes out to $235,000. Now you take your expenses. Let's say the expenses, again, I'm talking about taxes, insurance, repairs, maintenance, utilities, whatever it might be, minus our expenses. Let's say they're 115,000. That means my net or my net operating income is going to equal $120,000. Now we take a cap rate. I'm going to try to make it simple. I'm going to say we take a cap rate of 10%. You divide the 10% into the 120, then now the value of this property comes out to $1,200,000. See, the cap rate is going to determine what the investor is willing to pay for the property. That's all it does, is determines the value. Now, if my client's looking for 10% cap rate, we have a net operating income of 120,000. As far as my investor is concerned, this building's only worth 1.2 million. Now, if you're the investor, I'm your real estate agent, and I send you the listing sheet, and this property is listed at 1.2 or 1.25 million, you're going to say, you know what, Sam, building looks good. Why don't you set up an appointment? Let's take a look at it next week. Now, let's say this property is listed at 1.7 million, and I send this to you. You know it's way overpriced. You're going to throw away the listing sheet, not even call me anymore because I'm an idiot. This property's way overpriced. Now, if this particular property happens to be on the market for $1 million, and I send this to you, you're going to call me up right away. You're going to say, Sam, hurry up. Meet me at the building right now. Bring a contract. I have my checkbook. They know it's a bargain and they want it. The cap rate determines what the value is going to be. The net operating income divided by the cap rate is going to equal the value. Now, let's say I don't like the area. I don't think there's a lot of appreciation here. I don't want a 10% cap rate. Let's say I want a 12% cap rate. I want more money. I don't want 10, I want 12. I need more money. In order for me to have more money, I have to pay less for the building. So at a 12% cap rate, since I want more money, I divide 12% into 120. Now, as the investor, I feel that the value is $1 million. Now, let's say I like the neighborhood. I feel there's a lot of appreciation here. You know what? I don't need 12. I don't even need 10. I heard Starbucks is going up. The value of the area is going up. I'd be happy with only 8.5%. So if I take the cap rate of 8.5%, divided to the 120,000, I come up with the value. I'm not sure what it is. I'm just guessing. I think it's 1.410, something like that. To me, that's what the value is. So that's how the investor determines the value. I have a question here. How do you know what the cap rate is? Okay. How do I know how the cap rate is? This is what you need to know. Oops. Oops. I lost it right here. This is how I determine a cap rate. You take about 4 or 5 buildings in the area. It doesn't matter how many units. You take the net operating income divided by the sold price. That gives you the cap rate on one of them. You do 4, 5, 6 of these. You get and then you average them out. That's how you get the cap rate. So know both of these formulas I have on the left. How do you find the net operating income on something you don't own? It's on the listing information sheet. The NOI is on the listing information sheet. The income is on the listing sheet, the vacancy, the expenses, and then the net's also on there. They actually break it down on commercial property. How much money is going towards taxes? How much going towards insurance? How much is going through repairs? Plus, you can't even trust that because sometimes sellers lie. So what you also need is something called the Schedule E. The Schedule E is what they file with the IRS on their building. You want to see 2 to 3 years worth of it's called the Schedule E. That's what investors file with the IRS. That might not be completely accurate, but it's a pretty good, strong basis. Not many. You get a few of these. You got 3 problems like this you might get 1 or 2. So what I would do, try the problems in the back of the chapter of chapter 7. If you have any problems with those, let me know. I'll be more than happy to explain them to you on the next class on Monday. Okay. Now, let's go on, finish up this chapter. As I said, try these problems. And if you don't understand them, I will help you with them. This next paragraph where they talk about the GRM, gross rent multiplier. I get a highlight, put an X by that. I want to give you a couple of sample problems on that, a sample problem. The GRM, many of you will see it. I'm not saying all of you, but most of you will. GRM stands for gross rent multiplier. This is often used on a smaller to determine the value of a smaller income producing property. It can be used on a large building, but it's not very accurate. So it's often used on like a single storefront or that one bedroom condo that you're renting out. The formula that you need to know is you take the monthly rent and you multiply it by the GRM, and that's going to equal the value. That's exactly what you will see. So let me give you a problem, okay? The rent is $18,000 a year. The GRM is 90. Question is, I need all of you to answer this. The question is, what is the value of the property? Go ahead and solve that problem. This is almost exactly what you'll see on the state exam. The rent is $18,000 a year. The GRM is 90. Question is, what's the value of the property? Okay, very good. Now, when I tell you you're going to see this on a state exam, you are going to see this on a state exam. So what I need is for all of you to answer this problem. Okay, so let me see what I got here. It seems like it's split about 50-50 between two different answers. Half of you put down $1,620,000, and about half of you put down $135,000. By the way, both these answers you'll see on the state exam, except that this one is wrong. Why? To figure out the value of the property, you take the monthly rent times the GRM equals the value. The rent is $18,000 a year. 18,000 divided by 12 months equals $1,500 a month. 1,500 a month times 90. The answer is $135,000. This is exactly what you will see. It's okay, as I said, if you make a mistake in the class, because generally you will not make the same mistake again on the state exam. Yeah, 18,000 needs to be divided by 12 months because I gave you the yearly rent. The GRM is based on the monthly rent. Yeah. Need more coffee. Okay, as long as it's not more wine. You have to pay attention to the word. The state exam is very, very tricky. It's very, very tricky. So I deleted something by accident. Someone said wine and something else. I don't know what they said. Tequila. I don't know what they said. Okay. Very good that you did this. Let's get back and finish up this chapter. The appraisal process. Highlight, put an X by this paragraph. It says, although appraising is not an exact or precise science, what it is just gathering this information, analyzing the data, and then writing up your report. Now, there's two types of data that an appraiser uses. Number one, highlight, put X by number 1 and 2. Number 1 is called general data. General data is information about the community. What type of housing is there? Where are the schools, the public transportation, the expressway, the airport, hospitals, parks, beaches, things like that. That's just general data about the community. Then the second step, number 2, is specific data. And that's where the appraiser walks in there with their clipboard and everything else. They come in and they say, okay, the square footage of this particular house, is this average, above average, below average of what's normal in the neighborhood? They check it off. Let's say this living room, what's the size of this living room? Is it average, above average, or below average? They check that off. What's the conditions of the walls and ceilings? Average, above average, below average. What's the condition of the flooring? It's carpeting. No, it's Brazilian cherry wood. No, it's bamboo hardwood. So they check it off, and then they do this through every room, the kitchen, the landscaping, everything else. And then they turn in their report, and that's the end of chapter 7.